the building that you didn't see when you went on your tours earlier this spring is the maintenance garage. And the maintenance garage was actually purchased from We Energies. It's about a 6,200 square foot building, sits on 1.7 acres. And that building, there's 6,000 square feet of building space. We actually have a salt shed where because we buy salt off the state bid, and you have to store it appropriately so that we can get it when we need it. No students over there. Originally constructed in '59, had an addition in '61. You can kind of see the layout of the building. This is really where we keep all of our vehicles. It's a very tight space. In fact, we started actually using the old DPW building in Jackson that we now own to store some of our stuff, so we don't have to keep it outside. It's a shame to spend good money on pieces of equipment and leave it sit outside all winter. So we're doing the very best we can with that facility. It's actually in not bad shape. Replacement costs on that would be about $1.4 million. There's about $176,000 worth of repairs that are going to need to be done there. Primarily, it's a new roof system and a couple of rooftop HVAC units. There's really not much in that building to go wrong. Again, it's a maintenance shop area more than anything else.
Dave, is there space on that parcel? If storage space is a limitation today, is there room to expand on that property?
Yes, there is.
Thank you.
Dave, I want to pick on these last two buildings before you move on.
Okay.
Part of the private task force recommendation was closing the maintenance shed and closing this building. Do they still serve a purpose, and are we paying a fortune just to operate them? I mean, if you go back to this building with a FCI of only 6%, which would mean it's in pretty darn good shape,
Mm-hmm.
would we really be saving a lot of money just by closing shop? And obviously you would hopefully sell it to make some money on a sale, but how about just running the building every day?
And you'll see in some slides later on, because I've got the utility costs in there.
Okay.
We basically have a full-time custodian here. And there's a little bit of maintenance, but there's really not a whole heck of a lot. We were very fortunate in that all the office partitions and furniture that you see upstairs, that was all donated to the district. So and the best part of it is you can still get replacement parts. So we don't end up with odd colored office panels in there that barely fit. But it doesn't cost a huge amount of money. And again, you'll see the maintenance building doesn't cost a huge amount of money.
Would we like more space at the maintenance shed? Yes, but does it still serve the purpose of protecting our vehicles, and then guys can work on things down there?
Yep, you can tear things apart and do some work on them, and keep going on things. So yes, they're both functional buildings.
And Dave, to your comment about having an FTE custodian here, if we were to implement the task force's recommendation of consolidating to a single campus, you may reduce some level of custodial service, but you're going to need custodial services for the rest of that facility. So at the end of the day, maybe it's a net reduction of half,
Maybe
20 hours a week.
Maybe, depending upon how things got divided up and spread out. So
it's marginal, I guess, is where I'm kind of heading, along with Joel's comments about operating costs, that it doesn't seem to be that far out of line to be enticing to do the consolidation model.
No, and actually when you look at the report that I handed out, I mean, that has all the energy costs in it, and I'll cover that in a little bit, but you can kind of see where we are and how all the buildings fare in the evaluation. So the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was square foot per student standards. That seems to be a hot topic, and I did have a question on that. And I did a little bit of research and found that in Wisconsin, over the last 15 years, elementary schools have ranged from 125 to 140 square feet per student. You can see what middle and high school come in as well. The numbers in red are actually from the Minnesota Department of Children, Families, and Learning, and it's from their guide for construction projects. So it just gives a little something to compare to. To kind of go back and talk about the task force presentation that you had a few months ago. If we use the 125 to 140 square feet per student, based on the numbers that were there, that the building would actually need to be 97,875 square feet to 109,620 square feet. Probably with that number of students, it would actually need to be a little bit larger than that, because you'd end up having to double up on your special spaces, because you could never get by with just one art room, one music room, and you probably need a multi-section gym to go along with that. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. And then, again, just so you have a point of reference against these numbers, currently at McLean, and I chose McLean just because it's there's a lot of students at McLean, it's fairly tight. We're at 144 square feet per student at McLean. At Silverbrook, we're at 216, and at the high school right now, we're at 212.
Dave, before you go any farther, we talk about the point of return as far as once you make it bigger, obviously, you could have a little bit less space per kid if it's 400 students as opposed to 300 students. Once you get over a certain point in time, then you need more space per student because you double up on the art room, you double up on the music room, you have a bigger gym space. And typically, it's about 4 sections.
About 4 sections, yeah.
4 sections. So if you look at 25 kids per section, and in a, you're looking at somewhere in that 500 to 600 range. Once you get over that point, 600, many of our elementaries are K-5, not in West Bend, but many statewide are K-5. So you look at 6 grade levels, 100 kids per grade level. 600 really is the max before you start lose that point of diminishing return. Somewhere in between 500 and 600 is where most new elementaries, if you're going to go over that, they really caution it, because you're first of all, you're making it bigger than what most people want in an elementary, and second of all, you have to start adding additional square foot per kid, because you're doubling up on those gym spaces, doubling up on the music space, the whatever. So 500 to 600 is kind of what I'm hearing is the magic norm for an elementary school. It can be less, it can be more, you can do anything you want to, but once you get more than 600, now you're needing more square foot per child because of the doubling up on some of the extras.
Okay, up until now, we've pretty much talked about capital budgets and how we spend our dollars. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what our operating costs look like. So, our total operating budget is about $5.8 million in 18-19. As you can see by the graph, 84% of that budget is eaten up by utilities, wages, and benefits. We have about 4.6% that's used for supplies. That includes all our custodial supplies, fertilizers for athletic fields, road salt, you name it, anything that we buy that's a supply. Our operational services are things like trash collection, recycling, medical waste disposal. Our maintenance services are things like, having people come in, tune up the boilers, do all our mechanical PM kind of work. And then the other category is for everything else. That includes things like fuel, tools, uniforms. So again, just to give you a bit of a snapshot of how we operate on a daily basis. So there's not a whole heck of a lot left in there, but the one thing that I do try to really concentrate on is the utilities portion, because that's the one thing that I can have a little bit of control over. So the next chart is our cost per square foot, and essentially what this chart is there's a number of, all our buildings are looked at in that report that's on your desk.